Hello, everyone. Welcome to Recapping with Delora.
And Ashley, episode 2.
Episode 2. I mean, what a week it's been. I mean, everything from the presidential helicopter being all over the news to baby announcements and a fly.
Infamous fly.
So let's get started with these hot topics. So it's important to know that October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And with this story, Ananda Lewis, popular VJ from late 90s, early 2000s.
Yeah, kids, yeah.
She recently revealed that she's been battling stage 3 breast cancer for the last 2 years. She's only 47 years old. And she talks about how she regrets not getting a mammogram sooner. She said that she saw her mom go through breast cancer and all the treatments, and she didn't want the exposure of radiation through each mammogram. But she said she had gotten that mammogram at age 40, they would have been able to find this cancer a lot sooner.
And 40 is the recommended age for women to start getting mammograms, correct?
Yes.
The recommended age.
This new screening, it's called a PET, that the amount of radiation in that is the equivalent of 30 mammograms. So she's had 2 of those. So she's had a total of 60 mammograms worth of radiation exposure with this scan. I don't know what to say other than I'm grateful for her story, but I'm so sorry that she has to go through this. What do you think, Ashley?
Yeah, I mean, when I read the article, I remember just thinking, like, I've definitely had those moments with certain tests where you do worry about potential for radiation exposure, things like that. It has never stopped me from doing things that are recommended. And to her point, I get it if she felt like, well, my mom was getting it regularly and she still got breast cancer. So, you put it in your head that one correlates with another. But I think it's wonderful that even though she was so doubtful, she's able to put that aside and come out with this story, because she feels like it's what's in the best interest of other women who may be following that same train of thought. Because I mean, there had to be probably some genetic disposition for her too to potentially get breast cancer, given that her mother had breast cancer, right? So I wish her obviously the very best. She mentions in the article, she wants to still be around for her 9-year-old son, and this is the first I heard about Ananda in a very long time, right? So it's very sad.
Honestly,
it's very sad. This is how I'm hearing about her.
I hadn't heard. I mean, One Wish, that's the last time I really
And I didn't even remember her from that. Like, listen, I'm like, I remember as soon as I saw the face, it comes back to you because you remember, gorgeous, she's so beautiful. Ageless, exactly. Like flawless, the hair, the everything. Like she was always somebody that I like to watch doing her, hosting gigs and stuff like that.
Always.
But it was just, it's sad that this is the way she's coming back. But again, I just think it's wonderful. And we just talked about this on the first podcast because of Chadwick about, being very much more mindful of our health. And I just think as these stories come out and we hear about things, even though you may have it in your mind sometimes about what may be best for you, I think following the recommended advice of doctors and people who went to school is probably always in your best interest, right?
Exactly.
And breast cancer is one of those that the earlier you detect it, the better, as she mentions. So we wish her the best and hopefully a speedy recovery. I know she says she's doing a lot of natural remedies. I don't know if she's going to come out and kind of talk about what treatment she's doing outside of chemo and radiation and the normal
and she's also
cancer.
Doing what's recommended, which is also important to know too, because I am a believer of natural remedies, but pairing the two, I think is your best bet, because going to extremes on either side, I don't agree with. But I will say, and I'm just going to be 100% transparent, I never thought about the amount of radiation exposure when it came to mammograms. So I'm kind of glad that she even talked about that, just even breaking it down with the screening that she has to get now, the PET versus a standard mammogram, how it's equivalent of one of those PTE scans is equivalent of 30 mammograms. And so that was enlightening. So she's going to save so many lives with her video. And I'm glad it's getting the rotation that it needs. So thank you, and prayers and good vibes your way, Miss Lewis.
Absolutely.
So, surprise! Kelly Rowland expecting baby number 2. She did it the most boss way on the cover of November's 2020 issue of Women's Health. As I mentioned, this is her second child with her husband, her first child, Titan, who's a cutie. Can we talk about this cover? She looks amazing.
When doesn't Kelly Rowland look amazing, right? The skin is flawless, the hair is flawless, the background, you just got the everything popping, the melanin looking beautiful, and the sun,
Yes.
it's very, very much in Kelly's wheelhouse. But it's funny because I remember at the beginning of the pandemic and everything going on, I said, I wonder how many people about to be popping up with these quarantine babies because you just have so much time on your hands. So obviously she's the latest.
And David Foster just announced they're expecting Emma Roberts pregnant.
Wow, I didn't hear about the David Foster, Catherine McPhee one.
That just came out.
So what is this going to be, David's 5th kid?
Girl, I have no idea. This man has been married multiple times, has multiple children.
Well, I wonder if he's finally gonna get a son. But anyway, that's neither here nor there.
That's
neither
right.
here nor there. Yeah, because
he's always been the only boy, like in his family.
If you watch that, I watched that documentary on Netflix. So it's like I'm a little more invested in David Foster's life.
Yes, exactly. And honestly, I'm gonna be a little shady. His relationship with Catherine McPhee was kind of like. Okay, like who's helping who here? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, it's so interesting that his daughters seem so on board with it, which great. I'm glad the family dynamics are good in that situation.
Not that many years.
Yeah, she's very young. What is he? He's in his 70s. So I mean, it's just, and obviously again, he makes the point and says in the documentary, and this is not to take us down a rabbit hole, right. But he mentions that, his relationships did not always end well or smoothly. No. He was not necessarily there for his children. So, great. I hope he gets a son maybe. And I mean, if he gets another girl, that's amazing. We love women. Yes. Absolutely. Yes. But hopefully, he can be a little more present for this next kid anyway.
And I have to say, back to Kelly Rowland, the last time I saw her, she was being interviewed by the Breakfast Club.
Okay.
She's promoting her Coffee single, which is a banger.
Oh, I love that song so much.
That video.
Girl, I said, Kelly, you got them nipples out, girl. You said, I'm about to be free. She looked amazing.
Melanin popping everywhere, all the shades. Love it.
It almost looks like the photo shoot was the same day as that video because the background is so similar,
That must be her backyard or something.
Wouldn't that be nice? You know how Chloe and Haley do everything from their tennis court? Wouldn't that be nice if that's how Kelly gets down?
Exactly. So our next topic, this week, our nation had our vice president debates.
Ooh.
We had Senator Kamala Harris versus Vice President Pence. And the largest talking point out of the whole thing was a fly.
Yeah.
That landed on Vice President Pence's head for 2 minutes and 3 seconds, according to the New York Times.
Oh my goodness! Somebody timed it.
Girl, I was done. The memes alone. Ashley, what are your thoughts?
So the fly was absolutely the star of the show. I went up to my TV. I was like, hold on, is that in my house? Oh, that's on his head. Like, It was just so unexpected. And I just read an article a little while ago. I used to love watching Veep with Julia Louis-Dreyfus, and they just did a reunion episode to raise money for Biden's campaign. And she just said, like, I wish we had thought of that. Like, why didn't we ever think about something so ridiculous, right? It seems like something out of a TV show that a fly is going to land on this man's head in the middle of a national debate, and they're indoors, right? Like, where'd this fly come from? Where'd this fly come from?
It was such a serious topic, by the way, which I'm not going to go into, but I mean, the fact that it stayed there, I just was like, what is going on here?
What robotic fly is this, and who got it in the building? Because it definitely was chilling. And I know obviously his pink eye was another big mention from that, but I still do think the fly was the bigger story between the two.
The fly was the bigger story, but I think it's so funny that our nation just gravitates to the most random things, especially on social media. And I think a lot of it has to deal with, we love to keep from crying.
Oh, absolutely. We're in survival mode right now. We're in survival mode.
The most random, because honestly, if it wasn't for that fly, what would have been the hot takes of that debate? I wonder, but we will never know.
No.
I want to hit on a speed round of topics really quick before we get into our recap of the week, which is Sneakerheads.
Yes.
So speed round. Congrats are in order for Ebony K. Williams. She will be the newest housewife of New York.
Still can't believe that.
I mean, I was really surprised when I saw that.
For people who don't know who Ebony is, you want to give a little brief background on who Ebony is?
Yes, she's a lawyer, an author, a social commentator. She currently has a show on Revolt. Mm-hmm. She actually is starting a podcast. She's a brilliant woman.
And she's the first Black.
Surprised. This is a surprise move, honestly. Yeah. I mean, touche. I mean, I did not see this coming at all. Like the podcast, the TV show, all that makes sense. I mean, I feel like, she's on the Breakfast Club often. It's like between her and Angela Rye when it comes to, giving legal perspectives on various things, politics, law, cases, and etc. So, I think she's about it, and I think she's going to do just fine.
Yeah, I definitely think she'll hold her own. First Black cast member on Real Housewives of New York. I think she'll hold it down. Now, how much she will enjoy it, I'll be curious. Some people go on, they love it. Some people, nah. So we'll see if Ebony enjoys herself.
I think it's interesting because, from my understanding, isn't she single?
That's a really good question. I don't know anything about Ebony's personal life. So
I'm pretty sure that's intentional, but I didn't know she was married. And don't get me wrong, there's plenty of housewives who are not married, so that doesn't really matter. But it should be interesting. Oh, and so the final topic I wanted to touch upon is something that we talked about last week, and that is The Rock. The Rock has gained, or I should say, his followers on Instagram have rocketed to 200 million after his endorsement of Joe Biden.
Wow.
He made a 4-minute video on his Instagram pretty much saying thank you. And he spoke on the importance of, quote unquote, speaking your truth.
All right. I feel kind of
justified in my opinion last week.
I mean, again, good for him. Like, as important as this election is, and as important as everyone talks about with voting, exercising your rights and all that, good for him to have such a big platform and to really utilize it in a way that he feels is beneficial. I give him nothing but kudos, sir.
He's number one.
The
most followed man on Instagram right now.
So he even surpassed Will Smith.
I believe so. I mean,
okay.
In that Instagram post, he ran down the new metrics. So
another thing for him to hold over Kevin Hart's head.
That's good.
I love their friendship.
Absolutely.
All right. So you good with hot topics for the week?
Yes.
All right. So we will move into, as Delora mentioned, our recap for the week, which is one of the hidden gems I mentioned last week. We decided to give a little more love, and that is Sneakerheads on Netflix.
Yes.
So, Delora, I told you a little feedback I got from last week is that some people are not going to have seen some of these shows. So, I'll give a synopsis first, a spoiler-free synopsis. We can give our rating, and then we'll dive deeper into kind of the meat of the recap, if that's good with you.
Sounds great.
All right. So, Sneakerheads, as I mentioned, is on Netflix. It is 6 30-minute episodes, and the synopsis is former sneakerhead turned stay-at-home dad Devin gets back in the game only to find himself $5,000 in the hole after falling for a scheme. Desperate, yeah, girl, 5,000. Desperate, Devin enlists the help of his fellow shoe-loving friends on a global hunt for the elusive Jordan Zeros. So I was interested to note that Dave Meyers was the director of this series. Now, I did not know that Dave Meyers, who was a video director back in the day, I remember seeing him doing all the pop stars videos from NSYNC to Britney to all of them, has gotten into, you definitely, so he's a white guy, glasses, like kind of spiky, dark hair, like you definitely know who he is. And I just didn't know he had gotten into, like it gave me, like I was like, wow, Dave, I did not know you were getting into the like other content game as a director. So that was interesting to note. I'll mention the main cast, which is Alan Maldonado plays Devin, the main character. I mentioned last time Alan has been in things like Blackish, and Andrew Batchelor, aka King Bach, plays Bobby, who is his best friend in the show. You have a newcomer. Yes, and comedian. He's very funny. You have a newcomer that I hadn't seen in anything else, Jernest Corchado, who plays Nori. You have Matthew Jostin, who plays Stewie. And you have Yanni King, who plays Devin's wife, Christine. So that's just kind of the nuts and bolts of it. Delora, what did you think overall of this series, and what grade did you rate it?
Oh, Ashley, it's so much pressure. Okay, so what did I think about this film? I will first say I am not a sneakerhead, okay? So a lot of what they were talking about went clear over my head, except when they started talking about basketball players and championships. And I'm like, oh, I know that. I just don't know their shoes outside of Jordan. I'll give it a B-. That's okay. What I give. Certain characters tap danced on my last nerve, and I could not enjoy it as much as I hoped. But chemistry of the cast, great. The look of the show, great. Traveling to and from different places, great. But the actual story plot was fine. It's individual characters I just did not care for.
I got you, and I totally understand that.
The entire time.
Yeah, I totally understand that. I think so. I've watched it a second time now because I wanted to watch it again to be fresh for our recap. Okay. And the first time I watched it, as I mentioned, I loved it. I just kind of consumed it. It was just, I think I've talked to you about it many times, into kind of the lighter TV and movies right now, just because of how heavy everything is, right? So it was just so like light and fun. But to your point, I think my grade overall, especially after consuming it a second time, is a B+. And I give it a B+ because I do love sneakers, especially Jordans, which are prominently featured in the show. But I also think, some of it was very fantastical in terms of, kind of how things unfolded, and the unrealistic portions of it, I should say, just kind of got to me more the second time. I'm like, that just wrapped up way too nice, or this was just so far-fetched, or just kind of the way that they and we'll get into it, the way they had Devin being kind of not submissive to Bobby, but in a sense where he just was always falling for everything Bobby said, was very frustrating at certain points in time, for sure. So I think overall, and then again, I also think that it's and I think there's no problem with it being a more male skewed type of show, but I don't know if I felt like some of the female characters were as strong as I would have liked them to be.
Yes, I think
especially
they
Devin's wife.
His wife. I think they tried it with her, but I mean, I look forward to, going in.
Diving in. Yeah, diving in. Okay, so we're diving in now. For anyone who does not want to hear the nuts and bolts, it's time to cut us off. But if you want to stick with us, please do. So let's get into Sneakerheads. So I kind of have this just broken out by episode, Dolores, since it's 6 episodes, but obviously we can just hit kind of the highlights of everything as we did last week.
I have notes each episode too, so.
Okay, awesome. All right, so the show in and of itself, the setting is LA, right? Backdrop is LA. Sneaker culture, I guess, is popping in LA. I haven't been as an adult, so I'm gonna take y'all word for it. So in episode 1, we first meet Devin, and he is a stay-at-home dad, as I mentioned before.
Taking care of the children.
Yes, he's taking care of. He has 2 children. His wife is working towards being a lawyer, and in the first couple of minutes, you kind of figure out that he was so addicted to sneakers at one point that he almost went bankrupt because his wife catches him looking at sneakers on the computer.
And I have to say, I swore it was porn, and then I realized, what we're watching.
Yes, they tried to kind of make it seem like that because she's like, really, on the family computer? You're like, what was this man doing? He hopped out the van with the kids, and you're like, what's happening right now?
Yes.
Yeah, I think that was obviously intentional, and they wanted that to be everybody's reaction, and it was just some sneakers he really wanted, the white cement retro 4s.
I was gonna say
he doesn't really give any indication necessarily of why until he kind of says, oh, well, I wore them when I scored however many points playing basketball, and I wore them to prom and whatever. So in episode 1, you see him go to a prominent shoe store, and he has to wait in line, and then we get reintroduced to his best friend, played by Andrew Bachelor, aka King Bach. His name is Bobby.
Bobby wearing a Foot Locker.
Yes. Coming on a scooter. And he basically is able to get them closer in line because he's paid some little kids stand in line for him, which, by the way, in my opinion, was genius because I remember those days and me and my brother standing in line for some Jordans, hoping that they still have our size by the time we got up to the front of the line.
I have never had to do any of that in my life. So that's why I was just like, I've never owned a pair of Jordans. I mean, I always figure if I want to build up a shoe wardrobe that maybe I would include a pair of Jordans, but I never did it. If I were to get them, though, which ones should I get?
So my favorite pair are the 11s, and they are the sexiest sneaker, in my opinion, that was ever created.
They're
the retro 11s. And I had a black and red pair. The black and red pair, I had just sold them within the last few years, and they were my absolute favorite pair. And I still have
classic. I've seen those Jordans all the time.
Girl, they are the sexiest sneaker. I love Jordans so much. Jordans as a whole. I'm a Nike, and like Nike is my shoe brand of choice when it comes to sneakers and gym shoes. Gym shoes, as we say in the Midwest.
Sure, I call them tennis shoes, and I grew up in the Midwest.
Okay, tennis shoes count
from
too.
The South, so maybe that has something to do with it. I don't know.
But in my closet right now, I still do have a pair of retro 11s that are snakeskin that I've had since like 6th grade, or maybe it was even middle school. I think it was middle school. And then I also have the retro 7s, and I have the retro 13s still in my closet today.
What number are we at now, currently? I'm curious. Okay, I don't know if anyone who picked up on this yet. I have no idea what's going on. Okay.
and I wish,
obviously, Ashley's choice in show.
And I wish I was so much of a sneakerhead that I had even kept up, becoming a grown woman, because we are grown women now.
Absolutely.
I've grown out of the sneaker game that I was once more heavily in. This show was like nostalgia for me and reminded me of how much I loved it. Like even certain scenes, it just reminded me of like that smell of a new sneaker coming out the box. And y'all know what I'm talking about. Like, it's just, I don't know.
I had much respect for that orange box. I'm sure they got all types of people excited before each episode. The title was on the orange box in the back of a shoe store.
Just the little touches. But yeah, I mean, I can't even remember where I was going with this, but I will just say that again, it just revitalized my love of the sneaker game and Jordan's just watching this. But yes, he was looking for the white cement retro fours. He goes to the sneaker shop, has to wait in line with Bobby. You realize him and Bobby have fallen out for some reason. He has not spoken to Bobby in 5 years, but he just alludes to something that happened that Bobby's like, wait, what happened? What's going on? Why aren't you talking to me anymore? So cut to, he gets Devin, who is literally just going supposedly for these one pair of shoes, into a scheme to go to a storage facility to bet on a storage facility that supposedly has a bunch of sneakers in it worth a lot of money. So at first Devin is against it. He's a family man now. He needs to get back home. He should have never gone out for these shoes in the first place, because he had to take his kids to the babysitter to do so. Yes. And he ends up betting $5,000, and come to find out in that storage unit, what happened? There's only the left pair of every single shoe, because the owner of the storage facility's girl, ex, whoever she was, burned the right pair of every shoe. When I tell you these shoes were valued, some of them $30,000, $40,000. Yeah. Upsetting. So what did you think about that adventure? Did you feel like Devin should have put his foot down, or do you feel like obviously he wanted to kind of go down this journey because he had missed being in the sneaker game and the sneaker hunt? What sense did you get from Devin in episode 1?
My sense of Devin was that he missed it. Like everything from standing in line to this chick who, the store lady who he had some connection with, which I could not read. And I think he had a free afternoon and was willing to follow Bobby into wherever he was going to show him, like what, go down that rabbit hole. And so I will say this. Okay, my first impressions of, like, for example, Nori, I thought she was cute and a badass. Loved her.
Yeah. So Nori, by the way, for everybody listening, is going to be a part of kind of the crew that forms. So it's going to end up being Devin, his best friend Bobby, Nori, who is basically seems like she is a connect for a lot of big time celebrities and things like that in terms of getting their sneakers, flipping their sneakers, whatever they need. And then you have Stewie, who is going to be kind of the outlier of the crew, little white guy who's just getting into the game, a little nerdy, whatever. So go ahead, Delora, about Nori.
That she was cute and badass, and you could tell that this whole series was a love letter to sneakerheads because of all the celebrities you saw popped up. Yeah. My first impression of Bobby, I will tell you verbatim what I wrote. Oh, dude is a shit talker with no money! Exclamation point! Exclamation point! He better turn lovable somewhere. Pressed my nerves early on.
Yeah.
And the reason why that's significant, because this $5,000 locker that Bobby convinced Devin to purchase, they were supposed to purchase it 50-50.
Yeah.
And I have to admit, when they were doing the auction, when Devin went from, they were at 3,000, and then Devin was like 5,000. I'm like, sir, that's a jump.
Calm down.
I could not. And I was like, all left shoes! Exclamation point, exclamation point, lies. That's how I felt. I just felt like, for a simple day to get, a taste of nostalgia for him turned into a financial nightmare, which I felt some kind of way about, because he's a married man
with kids.
He's a stay-at-home dad.
Yeah.
I mean, some couples don't even make purchases over $100, let alone $5,000. I had no respect for Bobby or patience. Episode 1.
Yeah.
And Devin, I'm just like, dude, what are you doing? Who are you proving this to?
Right.
So that's where I sit on it on episode.
Gotcha. I agree with everything you said. Just to kind of add on the fact that when he got home, he also lied to his wife, Devin did, about that $5,000 purchase. Right. Yes. So that's what kind of gets us off on our adventure for the rest of the series, because Devin is now attempting to secure back his $5,000. So we'll
by any means necessary.
Yes. So we'll move on to episode 2, in which Devin is reaching out to Nori, going back to the shoe shop to try to get help with his baby on his chest. And I was like, hold on, sir, did you bring the baby necessary? Did you bring the baby specifically for sympathy, or did you do it because you had no babysitter that day? That's what I was curious about.
Didn't have a babysitter. That's okay.
I was just curious, because I was like, that was a great sympathy point right there. And Nori said the only reason why she's helping you is because of that baby. So it came in handy. True. So he went to try to get help from Nori. Nori's like, okay, I can help you. Again, the crew was kind of forming at this point with Devin, Bobby, Nori, and Stewie, since they're going to try to look for some Jordan 1s to be able to switch off so that Devin can get his money back. Yes. So yet again,
$5,000. Keep that in mind.
Again, $5,000. So Bobby yet again kind of foils Devin's plans, right? Because Nori sends him to, like, it seems like a photo shoot or a video shoot, and says, listen, get these Jordan 1s specifically and don't touch anything else. Bobby, being Bobby, said, listen, I see these other sneakers. They're going to be worth a whole lot more. We should get these instead.
Red Octobers, to be specific.
Thank you very much for that drop. So obviously, Devin listens to Bobby. They get the wrong sneaker. They take it back to the sneaker shop, and the guy lowballs them because he says he already has that sneaker. He was going to pay $5,000 for the Jordan 1s, though. So what was your thoughts about why Devin at this point is not following his own logic? Like, why is he saw the first time the situation didn't work out with listening to Bobby. Why is he still listening to him at this point in the show, you think?
I feel like Devin is still depending on Bobby because Bobby has stayed in the game. You know, he's been out for 5 years. He may be a little rusty. I mean, at this point, I don't know if it's been revealed yet, but Bobby's in shoe design school.
He does mention that by now, I believe.
And he knows what Red Octobers are. He knows how fly they are. And he's just like, why not? You know, Nori, you know, I don't know why he wouldn't trust Nori, because to me, you know, women are more reliable.
Well, I mean, she specifically said, and I guess obviously, because I remember at the time thinking like, why is she talking to them like that? Because she says, repeat after me. I will not like touch any other shoe. I'm thinking like, is it going to be that tempting with the, you know, the situation they're going in? She obviously knew what they were getting themselves into, and that they were going to be idiots.
And listening to Bobby got the connect at the photo shoot fired, got him with no money. I just feel like, I mean, he needed to trust his gut, but he didn't. And I don't know what to say about that. I will say also in this episode, looking at some of the things I wrote down, Stewie's obviously crushing on Nori, which is hilarious and adorable. And I was surprised. Oh, this is the episode. So I'll let you keep going about episode 2. This was the reveal of the major plot point of the series.
What do you consider to be the major plot point? You talk about when, that was going to be the next thing I mentioned was because again, Devin's plans get foiled. Bobby basically convinces the crew. Exactly. Bobby convinces the crew to go on a hunt for some mythical Jordan Zeros. There was one particular collector who posted a video 2 years ago saying that he would trade his entire collection for these Jordan Zeros. Now, mind you, this man has the collection that's in glass cases, right, in his closet. You know his collection has to be worth some millions. So he's claiming that he would trade his whole collection for these one shoes that supposedly don't really exist. So he ends up having evidence that even convinces Nori, like, hey, let's go for this. You kind of realize that some of the motivation for Bobby in these antics and in some of the things that he is trying to reconnect with Devin on is the fact that at one point 5 years ago, or even possibly prior, they were going to open their own sneaker shop together.
Yes.
Bobby had held on to the design and kind of the sheet that listed the name, the logo, all this stuff. And you realize that their relationship was really, and their friendship was really based around not only a shared common love for sneakers, but really a vision for their future together. And I remember at this point in the series, I was thinking for a minute, like, they make it seem as if Bobby is stagnant, as if he hasn't really continued on in his life that much. And Devin has kind of gone on a whole nother trajectory. But I think you just realize, at least I did, you could tell me your thoughts too. I feel like Bobby just stayed the course in what both of their passions were, because to your point, he's in school, he's doing like classes to kind of design and make certain sneakers his own and put his own twist and spin on it. So I think you just see him at that point, you realize Bobby, it's not like Bobby is just stagnant, it's that he has stayed the course in this passion for sneakers and really wanting to make that a career field. So what was your thoughts at that point?
I was actually quite impressed that he actually had a vision and things like that. When it comes to Bobby and Devin going down two different paths, I think if it wasn't such an addiction for Devin, he probably would have stayed on course too. But I think it might have been a decision in his relationship to just wash his hands clean of it and focus on his growing family. I will say, even back in episode 1, him wearing those Toms had me cracking.
Oh my God.
Oh my gosh.
I had it written down and I didn't even mention it. The Toms healed my whole soul. It killed my whole soul. Like Bobby hit him with the line, right? And that just hurts me. What are those? You know, like
what are those? Yes.
Anyone who loves shoes, even if you only, even if it's not sneakers, if you love shoes, you know what it's like when you're used to having an impeccable shoe game.
Yes.
And you done lost it. Oh.
But to me, that showed how probably bad it was. For him to go all the way from
to some Toms.
Yes.
Oh, I'm glad you brought that up, because that was a hurtful little moment for me too. I was like, dang, not the what are those again? Rest in peace, Chadwick Boseman. I thought of you, baby. But yeah, I agree. I think probably too, for Devin, and when the wife Christine mentioned that it almost made him go bankrupt, I wonder truly how dire it was, or if he really was just putting his all into it at the time. But to your point, he has a family now, right? He has children. He has to think of other people outside of himself. So regardless,
you can consider it a bit of a hobby, right? And it's like, that's an expensive hobby if you want this house.
Exactly. Like, he has responsibilities. Absolutely. He has responsibilities he has to consider. I will say though, that one kind of downside I saw about that is the dynamic of thinking that when men get married, they have to give up what they love.
Ooh, yes.
You know what I mean?
That is not the case in every situation.
I felt like that was kind of a prominent thing. Like, even when Bobby was outside of his house in episode 2 and they're having a discussion about the plans for the shop they were going to open and all that, he says, listen, all you are is a husband. And he made it seem like that was just such an insult. And I was like, hold on, sir. Like, he has a family. Like, he's a family man. That was a choice he made, and he seems very happy in that decision. Like, that should not be something that hopefully men take away from the series. Hopefully they don't feel like, anyone who is out there who has not gotten married or whatever, feeling like,
the show was definitely male centric.
For sure. But I just mean like I hope that that's not too prominent. Like, again, it was my perception a little bit, but I hope it's not so prominent that guys out there are feeling like, see, That's why I want to get married. Because see, I get married,
Yeah.
I got to give up everything I care about. I can't wear J's no more. You know what I mean? Like,
Right. Not if you're going broke, boo. Not if you're going
yes,
broke.
exactly. It was an extreme, exaggerated version. But anything
But
else for
see,
you
for
with?
me, I'm like team wife all day, every day.
And
Christine.
you're the wife
Oh.
between us, so I definitely wanted your perspective on, you know, if your husband was out here in this sneaker game like this, would you be like, no, listen, boo, I'm gonna need you to slow down. I'm gonna need you to sit down because we got these kids and we got this mortgage. So yeah,
Period.
I appreciate hearing the wife's perspective. But moving on to episode 2, we're kind of getting into again the journey. So Devin has been out of work at this point for 3 years, and at the beginning of episode 3, he's trying to go back to work. So he's a corporate graphic designer, and he ends up quitting, Delora, almost immediately after he starts this job, because he sits at his cubicle, he sees they have the moment of showing all the guys ugly shoes that they're wearing,
Yes.
all of the you know the usual tie-up black and brown shoes you see professional men wearing, and then you have this janitor who or whatever who was coming around in his Jordans bopping, listening to music, and Devin's like, I could either do this or I can go live my best life, because at that point Bobby and the crew had drove up like right before he went into the building, still trying to get him to follow along and go on this hunt. And I have to be honest, the interaction with Devin and his old coworker was one of the funniest scenes in the entire show.
So the part that had me like cracking up was when he was like, oh, did I miss anything or anything like that? And his coworker had nothing to say. And, you know, it cracked me up because for me, I've had that experience where you leave a place of work, and then whenever you touch base with somebody who used to work with and ask them, oh, is there anything new? Has anything changed? 9 times out of 10, nah, nothing has changed. So it's like, okay, glad I'm out of that rat race, you know. But yeah, I will say, as his decision making without his wife was extremely problematic. I mean, did he tell her that he was going to get a job?
Yes,
and then for him to get the job and then leave same day
within minutes. Within minutes.
Just because yo broke friends are outside.
Well, I'm about to say Nori ain't broke though, but
Nori
yes,
for Bobby,
Bobby broke. Bobby broke.
Yes.
But I think too, the interaction, like when you just think about anybody who's lived that cubicle life, right? You feel it. You felt that in that moment. You're like, you know, that stagnant feeling you feel when you're sitting in that cube. You're looking at the same people every day. You feel there's a sense of like almost feeling a little trapped, especially again in Devin's case where he had this other passion that he knew he loved and that he would love to pursue if it hadn't been so problematic in his life. So, you know, again, that's one of the funniest scenes for me. When he was in that chair, he said, going down. Like, I think I laughed out loud in that whole scene. Like, sir, you needed a longer time. Your cameo was hilarious. But moving on. So again, he gets up, he walks out, he decides to go on this hunt. And where do they go, Delora? They go supposedly to Mark Wahlberg's house. Now, when I tell you this was the plot twist that threw me off so hard, I went down a Google rabbit hole. So you hear them talking in the car about Mark Wahlberg, and it's actor Mark Wahlberg they're talking about. They're talking about Devin's hating on him, talking about he plays the same person in every movie. They allude to the fact that maybe he slept with Christine, Devin's wife, because they
extra in the movie.
Yes. So he's hating on him hard, and then all of a sudden you get to this mansion and they open the door. That's not Mark Wahlberg, the actor. I'm like, who the hell is this impersonator and what is going on? It was Mark L. Wahlberg, who was the host of Antiques Freaking Roadshow.
I knew he looked familiar. Okay, so Ashley, I have to tell you, in my notes, I was like, who is this man? Exclamation point, question mark. And I was like, they did say Mark Wahlberg.
Girl. When I tell you, it was the one part of the show, like if I had to say like I had a high and low, that was my low, because I was like, what is happening here? Was Mark Wahlberg busy this day? Like, why do we not have the Mark Wahlberg stepping out this door?
But he was playing Mark Wahlberg. He was not playing himself.
No, he's playing the legit, again, that's why it was like, what is happening? What is happening?
The Ted Mark Wahlberg.
Yes, we are talking about the actor, the previous rapper, right? Like they even talk about his supposed career when he mentions a song. Like I'm just like, what?
Good vibration.
This imposter? Yes. Who is this imposter? And why are we doing this? So it threw me so hard. It threw me for a loop for a minute. But basically. It
also made it the funniest part of the show. Like
it was pretty funny, especially
it was hilarious. Because he talked about waking up at 4 a.m. and his workout.
Exactly. Like he's this exaggerated version of who you consider Mark Wahlberg to be, right? He has a freaking omelet bar in the back of the house. Every need they have, he answers it before they even get a chance to say anything. So inevitably, the reason why they're at Mark's house, guys, is because they're coming to try to get his Jordan Oregon 4s. I think I have it written down. Jordan Retro Oregon 4s. Yes. They are currently his favorite pair because he has been undefeated in tennis.
Tennis, of all things.
Exactly. So you have some great...
Making it a tennis shoe.
I see what you did there. I see what you did there, and I'm not mad about it. You have some great cameos in this episode from Paul Pierce to Michael Rappaport to freaking Sal Masakela, who I have not seen.
When I was like, that's Sal. I love Sal Masakela.
I have not. First of all, I didn't know he got rid of the dreads, because at first I was like, hold on, what's different? Like something else.
He did an interview with Amanda Seales for her podcast. And that was like, I think, one of the most recent times I've seen and the dreads are gone. The dreads are gone. But
did he say he was going bald, or was this a personal decision?
I think it might have been a decision. Honestly, they also I don't know if there's a connection, but his dad passed away and he kind of not too long after that. I mean, again, I don't know if there's a real connection between that, but it wouldn't be surprising if there was.
Got it. So again, there were some great celebrity cameos throughout the whole thing. You know, we don't have to get into all of them, but you will be pleasantly surprised by some of the celebs that pop up in these episodes. But
I will say this though. So after the whole Mark Wahlberg situation, I put in my notes, I was like, I decided not to guess what's going to happen next because I can't. And my brain hurts.
Yeah.
I was
so
like,
again,
you know what?
You start to feel like we're getting to the more, again, farther fetch. The longer we go in, the more, to me, farther fetch, the further they push, you know, where we're taking this and what kind of craziness or shenanigans the gang is going to kind of get into. Because again, they're going to the faux Mark Wahlberg's house to get these Oregon 4s. Devin has to play him in tennis. Devin wins, but Mark loses his cool, throws these damn Jordans over his fence. Michael B. Jordan, let's be clear, Michael B. Jordan is supposedly his neighbor, supposedly has a Black Panther.
And they encounter, which was funny. That was funny.
They encounter this Black Panther trying to get these Oregon 4s. Bobby, so for some reason, had to be the one who somehow got the whatever, it was the left or right shoe from that was right there by the Panther. And then what do we notice at the end? The Jordans are freaking scuffed. Mark Wahlberg has scuffed these sneakers.
Yes. I want to go back just a little bit before we move forward because one of the things that I also put down in my notes and I was thinking, it's like they need these shoes because they need it for more information from Bobby's person for these elusive zeros. But they put Devin up and I was like, does Devin even know how to play tennis?
They say he does.
But the funniest line for me was, I think it was Michael Rappaport. He was like, fucking Serena. I cried up.
But when Sal Masakela was like, listen, you are not Black. I think when it comes to Michael Rappaport, anybody who follows Michael Rappaport, you know how down it seems like he thinks he is for the cause. That
he gets too
hit
comfortable.
me.
That
hit me, and I thought it was hilarious because if you're a celebrity, you can really like allow people to make fun of you. I think you're my favorite kind of celebrity, right? If you don't take yourself so seriously, because it seemed like, you know, Michael Rappaport is somebody who may take himself seriously. So I appreciated that moment. Can I also say, and as just a wrap up of this episode, we find out that Nori is actually Stevie Kicks, who she has pretended is her boss, who is supposedly a man because of the sexism within the sneaker trade industry. Yes. She felt like she had to pretend that her boss was a man so people would take her more seriously. So I thought that was a very important moment.
And like I thought, she's a badass.
She is.
And then the last thing I put, I wanted to mention is at least they didn't have to pay for this pair, unlike all the other pairs they've been looking for.
Correct.
They just had to illegally trespass some land, but they got the shoes.
They sure did. Again, Bobby got his life spared. That Black Panther, thank you, Michael B. Jordan, did not attack. So we can move on then to episode 4. So again, those Oregon 4s were traded to a child. This was a child that Bobby had as his
contact.
Yes, for his next payment, or next clue rather, for these Jordan Zeros. And it leads us to a sandwich shop of the owner is some type of sneaker enthusiast who decided to get into sandwiches. And at first it seemed like it's a dead end. Everybody says we're going to give up because the sandwich shop guy was like, I don't get out of my shop. I don't know why they went in thinking they were going to get immediately a clue. Like, y'all are strangers. Why do you think he's just going to know what you're talking about? But Bobby decides not to give up. And can I say, this was weird to me. So Bobby, they overhear the sandwich shop guy needing some Capicola, which is a lunch meat, people. Yes. And so Bobby somehow secures from a street vendor in a truck some Capicola that he trades this sandwich shop guy for a box of clues. Now, Delora, if you were a sandwich shop owner, would you take a stranger's random box of meat?
Negative. Negative. I don't know you.
And would you want to frequent a shop where the owner would take a random box of meat?
Violations.
Exactly.
I mean, was this truck refrigerated? Like, I can't.
It was so weird. Again, there were these moments that I was like, listen, this does not make sense to me, but for the sake of the show, I'm gonna roll with it. I'm gonna roll with the adventure. But I definitely had that down as like, who does that? Who does that? So we cut to Bobby has the box. He yet again comes to Devin's house with the crew. They're in the garage. They can't figure out what all this junk is that seems like it's in this box.
It is truly junk, by the way. This is not an over-exaggeration.
Random stuff. All of a sudden, Devin's wife pops up in the garage. She immediately knows that all this stuff in this box represents NSYNC.
Random.
How far, again, to my far-fetched moments in the show, how far-fetched is that? We're over here, everybody's trying to figure out what this stuff means. Your wife just pops up and suddenly, this is NSYNC stuff. And this was a Black woman. Let me be clear.
Well, okay.
And I loved NSYNC. Not to say I didn't, because I was an NSYNC fanatic.
Loved it.
Justin Timberlake was my man for a long time.
I will say, when they got the box and then when she figured out it was NSYNC, I was like, she is a real one. I loved it. I was like, okay. But
I was just annoyed, I think.
In some ways they probably should list the show under fantasy too. It's like, you don't really necessarily deal with like the supernatural, but there are definitely some far-fetched situations going on.
Absolutely. But this the kind of catalyst for the NSYNC stuff is that whoever has these zeros has essentially been following NSYNC around, and that's what's going to lead them on an adventure to Hong Kong. But before we get to the diversion to Hong Kong, we finally find out what Bobby supposedly did that made him and Devin not speak anymore and made Christine, his wife, hate him. And that is that he had sex with Christine's mama on the hood of his car at their rehearsal dinner and said he thought it was her sister. Thoughts?
He's so ignorant. He's so ignorant.
Thoughts, honey.
I mean, honestly, again, I've been through with Bobby well before this point. Honestly, when he was getting his clues from a kid, I was like, so are we really supposed to trust this source? So it's not far-fetched at all that he did something this ignorant. And to think, my deal is, why didn't they have the conversation either? Just be like, I mean, I guess when people fall out, they don't necessarily take the time to have a circle time or red table talk, so to speak. But all
right, Jada,
I thought it was hilarious. And can we also talk about the trip to Hong Kong?
Real quick before you get to that. So help me to understand, though, in the dynamic of, okay, Bobby slept with your mama on the hood of the car. Your mama was not raped. Your mother was a willing participant. So why are you so upset?
Because
why are you so upset just at Bobby?
Because you want somebody to respect your mama, at least take her to a room. Like, I don't know, really on the hood of a car?
Your mama clearly got down like that and said, listen, like when I heard this, it reminded me of American Pie. And I was like, that's Stifler's mom, right? Because your mom, first of all, knew who Bobby was. She knew he was Devin's best friend.
Y'all was in the wedding.
She was at her daughter's rehearsal dinner, and she chose to have sex with him, and supposedly everyone saw. But like, your mother was a willing participant. Did you stop talking to your mom for a period of time, or we just mad at Bobby?
I mean, it's also embarrassing. It's humiliating. It's like y'all didn't have enough self-control to do this somewhere else.
I get that. I totally get that. My thing is not that she should not have been upset with Bobby, but again, did you hold your mother accountable for her shenanigans? Your mama is your mom. She grown. And she was like, let's do this, honey. Let's get down on the hood of this car. Like, I would love to have known what that conversation was thereafter. But anyway.
No one got that drunk at my wedding. So like you mentioned, the person who has the zeros is a fan of NSYNC, and they essentially go wherever NSYNC go. And so apparently, again, this is what makes this fantasy. NSYNC is doing some type of performance
reunion.
Mm-hmm. And I was like, thinking to myself, yeah, right. As if JT will do a reunion performance anywhere.
This is definitely without Justin Timberlake. This is absolutely the four.
He didn't even have them at his Super Bowl performance, which would have been helpful because it was not the best. He had Prince on a sheet. Like, sir, no.
Ooh. Yeah, I forgot about that. That was a sticky point because Prince always said he did not want to be a hologram. He didn't want to be anything like that when he passed away. So that's valid, but that definitely would not, Justin Timberlake definitely would not have been a part of that reunion. That would have been JC, Lance,
and how
Joey.
Random is that? How random is that? Like, who wrote this?
Girl. I could give you a name, but I didn't have that written down. But
I didn't either.
One last thing I was going to mention from episode 4, and again, I want your perspective as a wife. You see this being, now that Christine knows what has happened and that he's gotten back in with Bobby and they're doing all this stuff for some sneakers. Christine decides to take her kids to her mom's house for the weekend and tell him that she's going to give him his space and time to figure things out. Would it be that easy, Delora? Would you give your husband that space to figure out what he's doing?
I mean, that's an excellent question because I know my husband would never do anything. But honestly, I think the space was probably mainly for her. It was like, you're obviously going to do this with my permission or not.
Yeah.
Let me go over to my mama's who can help me with the kids and we can figure this out later. And he obviously made his decision, you know?
He does, because he decides, listen, I'm going to go ahead and take this trip to Hong Kong. Knowing that his marriage is in the balance, he mentions it. He says, listen, Christine is back Monday. If I'm not back Monday, my marriage is over.
Again, another reason why he probably had to pack this up 5 years ago, because he obviously, this is an addiction. This is an addiction.
He's willing to go down the Alice in Wonderland rabbit hole.
He is willing to spend that $5,000 on a storage unit. He's willing to hop on a freaking plane to go to another country across the world for a pair of mythical
Jordan Zeros.
I was going to say tennis shoes. Mythical shoes. This isn't healthy.
It's not.
She should have had an intervention.
And again, to the point of, I think this is one of the moments where I was like, the female characters aren't strong enough for me. I know, again, that we have to be able to let the story play out and for them to do what they need to do. But I don't feel like it would just be that easy. Like, especially if it was such a bad situation and you realize that, you know, your husband has now gone back down this path. I don't think you would just be like, listen, I'm going to give you a minute. I'm going to let you figure things out, sir. I think you'd be like, listen, if I see him in my house, if I see that motherfucker in my house again, we got a problem. If you don't get back on the straight and narrow, we got a problem. You know what I mean? Like, again, I know they had to kind of try to get Christine out of the way for the sake of continuing on with the story, but I do feel like it would have been a little more complicated than that in reality. But we're watching television. That's the beauty of television.
Her wits in again, and it's kind of like, you need to get this out of your system.
Well, they do make Christine seem like she's a little more laid back, right? Because up until this point, she doesn't really get into Devin's business. Even like they showed the scene where he leaves the party that his wife and kids are at to go supposedly for a work. He needs to go do some work. She didn't question him on that. She didn't say, well, what work? What was the problem? What are you doing? She's just like, okay, handle your business, whatever. So they do make her seem a little more laid back. But again, to what extent is that real? I don't know. But I'll dispel it for the sake of the show. Okay, I won't ask too many questions. So this leads us into episode 5, trip to Hong Kong, and Jason fucking Statham. Okay, so we're taking the trip with Bobby and with Devin, and we get to the point where you wonder how they're going to get to this guy, right? Again, the NSYNC concert is going on, but Bobby says, listen, we're not going to the concert. We're going to the one place that any sneakerhead is going to go who comes here. And that's going to be this particular street. It's
a needle in a haystack.
It is absolutely. And they navigate Hong Kong, to me, exceptionally easy. Yes. To be people who do not speak the language, supposedly give no insight that they've ever visited before. Like, they're taking transportation, they have a boat, they're doing so much to get to this particular place. But
they don't sleep here or nothing.
Girl, I was like,
where's the jet lag?
We're on the same page. I'm like, I've traveled internationally. You a little tired? Y'all only got 5 hours? Y'all only got 5 hours. Okay. So they again are looking for this elusive person who supposedly has these shoes. They get to this sneaker street, and Bobby's grand idea to lure him in is to hang an NSYNC t-shirt to try to get his attention. Somehow this plan works. The lure again. Somehow it works. They find this guy, and cut to, he doesn't speak any English. So they're trying to negotiate. He's Norwegian. They're trying to negotiate. So, Devin thought he had this idea to trade out some puppets, some NSYNC puppets that the guy already had. The guy already had from No Strings Attached.
Music video. Can we say classic moment in music video history? Okay,
Justin with the curls.
Old dude already had all of them, and they were signed.
He sure did. He's true. Like, obviously, he's going to be a true fan. So what ends up happening is that he likes Bobby sneakers, which Bobby has customized. Shockingly, loves these sneakers, and they decide to trade. Now, I will say at this point in time, one of the things that bothered me was I didn't like the zeros. I was so upset with these damn zeros.
Really raggedy. I'm sorry.
And she was not cute. They were
not impressive.
Michael Jordan would never. Okay? Michael Jordan would never.
The reason why they weren't the ones. Right?
Exactly. Thank you.
I was just like, they look old. They look.
It looked like he didn't traveled around in them. It looked like, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I wish in some ways they could have gotten the story behind it. And, you know, like, how did you get these, sir?
Yeah. Yeah. Get the chance to talk to him about something. But clearly they wanted to kind of go through that and push through, because next we see, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, I appreciate the full circle moment of the guy being so impressed with Bobby's original design, even though I am not a fan of his by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah.
But that kind of proved that he actually had some talent, because again, he's just a loudmouth who gets people in trouble and shenanigans. And I'm like, at least this is something that's productive.
It has been a journey of absolute shenanigans. And Bobby's going to have 2 wins on this trip, right? This is win number 1. So win number 2 is about to be Jason fucking Statham. So we cut to, and I keep saying that, guys, not because I'm trying to be vulgar, but that was actually the title of the episode.
That is the title of the episode.
We cut to
refer to him as that throughout the episode.
Exactly. Well. We cut to the fact that Bobby accidentally stole a pair of sunglasses and had them on his head, because he was looking at sunglasses before they saw the guy take the t-shirt. So you see the shop owner going crazy too, and you're like, damn. So he gets arrested. Obviously,
I also felt some kind of way. I'm like, y'all are black folks, you know, international soil, obviously American.
It was reckless.
Y'all better show up and you know, not show out in that way.
Yeah, it was crazy reckless. So you see them get arrested. You see a guy interrogating them, and how true to life this is for Hong Kong prisons, I don't know. But you see the guy kind of going in, talking about they were facing 10 years in prison. Supposedly he was going to take a
pair of sunglasses.
Yeah, for a pair of sunglasses. But Jason fucking Statham comes in because Bobby, on the plane to Hong Kong, he ran into or stalked Jason Statham on the plane, and got his phone number.
Stalked him.
Got his phone number. Said he smelled what he would love to bottle his fragrance, right? He would love to buy him some Statham. Yes. So cut to, again, they realize, like, they get told we get one phone call, and so then Bobby's like, has this card from Jason Statham. Jason fucking Statham. Jason Statham somehow breaks them out of this Hong Kong prison and has a private plane awaiting them to end up eventually flying back.
Yes.
Girl, they come to, they get, like, they show black hoods being put over them. They come to shirtless singing karaoke in Hong Kong before they get flown back. It's just ridiculous.
That was fun.
But hilarious. And then Jason Statham is, we're going to get to episode 6, but in episode 6, Jason Statham sends Bobby a dick pic. So we're going to get there. but I wonder how Jason felt about this particular depiction of him, given who he is. And
hopefully he has a sense of humor.
Yes, I'm sure he does, right? I'm sure he does, but it was just hilarious.
A gorgeous supermodel.
Yes, he does. Rose Huntington.
Yeah. Did they ever get married, or were they engaged? They have a child together, but I don't know if they ever married.
I don't know, but Jason Statham is Jason Statham, right? He's a badass. Yeah. We've seen him in so many things. So hopefully, I'm sure he does have a great sense of humor. Yeah. He showed it a little bit in Hobbs and Shaw. So I'm sure he took it all in stride, but it was pretty funny. A side story of this episode, Delora, I wanted to get to was Christine. Yes. So again, we see Christine. Yes, we see Christine supposedly
in the beginning of this recap.
So we see Christine supposedly, she came back to the house to get something for the daughter, and she finds Gia gave Devin a card with some hearts on it and her number. So Christine's like, oh shit, mom, I'm gonna call you back. I gotta go handle some business.
Who this?
Pops up at the sneaker store and popped off, right? She's like, doesn't care about who's around, says, oh, you fucking my husband. It gets really hyped for 2 seconds. But then yet again, they kind of derailed the situation a little bit by having Gia take Christine on a scavenger hunt for a purse.
To show her the real.
It was supposed to be a connection to show her what the love of the hunt does and the reason why Devin is the way he is when it comes to sneakers. So she takes her on this whole adventure.
Okay, side note.
I don't know. I don't know.
To Hell and High Waters, for a particular pair of shoes or whatever, bartering, you know, so-and-so know so-and-so who got the one so-and-so that get you to the next so-and-so. Like,
girl, I honestly don't know. Can I say that it did seem fun? Yes.
Yes. I think I would
fun.
only enjoy it if I'm not the person who's in need of any of this. And my money's not on the line for any of this. I think I would gladly go along though.
And I think it was interesting too, given that Christine doesn't know Gia, and because she supposedly is a purse enthusiast, she said, sure, you know, I'll kind of go down this rabbit hole with you. They go to a restaurant and trade, you know, one thing for another. They trade some weed for eventually the purse, and it's going to be $3,000. So you think that Christine is passing. At the end of the episode, you kind of think like, oh, she's the reasonable one. She's not going to spend that type of money on one thing the way that it seemed like Devin would have for sneakers.
$3,000 so that's kind of how seemed like a lot of money. And I was like, what was the point of the weed? Just to get you to the right room or something?
Yes. Yeah. Again, like you said, it's a trade and barter system. So whatever you figure out, whatever that person likes or needs, and then you fulfill that need, and it takes you to the next place to get to what you need.
My question is, what's the retail price? And is any of this stuff legal? That is the other question.
We're not going to get into the legalities of it, because that seems like that could get ugly. Because obviously, some of the stuff they're doing is very, you know, backdoor, I'm gonna let you in type of shenanigans. But are you a purse person? Because I'm not. So that was something that I couldn't relate to. If I'm
anything, I'm a purse person.
Okay, so you could relate more to Christine's diversion.
Yes, again, I have not dropped $3,000 for a purse. But
correct.
A goal of mine is to you know, get a Chanel purse and maybe a Birkin. And the reason why I say that, because they are better than some stocks in terms of maintaining their value and resale. So
the Birkins,
it's actually a really good investment. And I'm not, you know, saying that to justify buying really, really, really expensive purses.
It's just amazing. Like Birkins are what, $25,000 at this point?
Girl, yes. I don't know. That's Birkin's a one day. Chanel is definitely happened. The Birkin, that's just I don't know.
Chanel's feasible. Birkin is like, you got to be on somebody's list, and you got to,
girl, yes.
That's insanity. But we're moving on to our very last episode, which is episode 6. So obviously, Bobby and Devin are successful in securing these zeros for their scavenger hunt that took them all the way to Hong Kong, as we mentioned. They're enjoying the fruits of their labor, chilling with the crew, with Stewie and Nori. And up comes Cole.
Talk about, like, how long were they in Hong Kong? Because that turnaround. Oh yeah, the private.
It was like 5 hours.
The private jet. I forgot.
Yes, the private jet from Jason Statham got them back. So episode 6, we see them right back where they were in LA. And again, they're enjoying the fruits of their labor, chilling with Nori and Stewie. And Cole, who has kind of been a nemesis throughout this show so far, like he's the reason why Devin wasn't able to get those Jordans he wanted on the very first episode. He pops up.
He drove up the price of the storage.
He sure did. Yeah, he's been a nemesis. He supposedly accidentally knocks over a smoothie onto these Jordan zeros.
Green smoothie on
so they had to
white zeros.
Yeah, I'm still. That's one of the biggest disappointments for me in the whole series is how ugly these damn shoes were. Michael Jordan, I know you would never. But anyway, he advises them to take it to this shop that's run by Jason Mark, who I had to look up. Jason Mark is legit. He has his own line of sneaker cleaner and all this stuff. So he is a force of nature. He has a shop, I think, in LA and one other major city, maybe Hong Kong, maybe London, somewhere like that. Google it. And he has to fix it. So yet again,
that's what he does. He fix up people's sneakers.
Yes. Oh, yet again, we come to a point, Delora, where Devin could decide to do something that seems like it's in his best interest, or he could listen to Bobby and roll the dice. And that is when they take these sneakers to the shop, Little Rail pops up and says, listen, are them the Jordan Zeros? I'll give you $10,000. This man took $10K out his pocket and said, I will give you this $10K for those shoes right now. And Bobby said, no, listen, don't do this. They're worth so much more than this. Laura,
Bobby
what would you have done?
Had the nerve to say, trust me.
Girl. Now, again, Bobby has had a couple of wins at this point. So we are at a different place with Bobby where maybe I could see why Devin would trust him a little bit more. But it's still, you're gambling, right? You don't know anything about this collector. It's been 2 years since this video was posted.
Is that
what
guy
would you
real,
have done?
The collector? Is he a real guy?
I don't know. But there are real collectors out there, obviously,
yes.
Even if he's not one of them. There are true sneakerheads out there who would have that type of vast collection, for sure. But what would you have done in this situation? Would you have taken the 10K?
Yes.
I think I would have too, girl.
Because the goal, let's remember what the goal was, to recoup the $5,000.
Yes, that Ashley? He had originally spent.
Yes, you froze on me. I'm sorry.
Oh, my bad. Yeah, sorry guys. We're over Zoom. We're over technology. We're making it work. But yes, I think I would have taken it too, because it's hard to deny cold hard cash right there in your face. But yet again, Devin passes.
Bobby said, trust me.
Girl. And then Cole steals the sneakers for a second. Jason Mark is able to fix them, and Cole steals the sneakers. When I tell you I wanted them to beat him down, him down.
The thought that came across my mind was, Cole is an ass. Like, I mean, it was already obvious that he was salty. And I almost wonder if, part of his saltiness was he was a part of the squad at one point, and then briefly. He got kicked out when they hit a dead end. So it was like, was he like resentful for that? And then he had the nerve to say, oh, I was just joking, when they caught up to him. No, this is not a game.
Not at all. With my money and we went all the way to Hong Kong, okay? And I may lose my marriage. I'm gonna kill you. But
actually, I also forgot to tell this to you too.
Okay.
People flipping these shoes and things like that. Part of me can't compute it, because I'm like, someone's foot has been in this shoe. Why would I want to then buy it off of them or give them the shoes that I've worn? Like, I mean, I get it for heels, but like when with the gym shoes and stuff, like I just never really computed like up in here in the brain. Like, I don't get it. And
why
then
people
it's like,
want used shoes.
If you spend so much money on the shoes and they're quote unquote valuable, do you wear them?
So I love that you asked this question, because this is something that even came up in the dynamic. I believe Bobby mentioned it, and I am for the few times that Bobby made any sense, this was one of them where I agree that shoes are meant to be worn. I am not a fan of locking a shoe up in a glass box, because as one of our favorites said in Devil Wears Prada, fashion is greater than art because you live your life in it. That is one of my favorite quotes from any film ever. Stanley Tucci, love him. But I think that when it comes to enjoying fashion, it's hard for me to imagine enjoying it if I just keep them in a case somewhere for the status that it has. Like, it's meant to be enjoyed, so I'm going to wear my shoes.
Yeah, I agree. The whole not bartering, but just like, those are the insert popular shoe. I got 500 on it. Again, what if they're not even your size? I don't understand. Size 13? Really, Devin? You're wearing a size 13? I don't understand these things. Like, I don't.
And again, if we, for a true sneakerhead, a true sneaker enthusiast, I think it really does come down to status and love and nostalgia and what those shoes mean to you, which we'll kind of get to at the very end here. But, I think also the thrill of the hunt. So you talk about all the things that they had to go through to get these shoes.
That's fair. And some of them only produce so many.
Exactly.
Pairs. Yeah.
Because, I mean, again, Jordan Zero. So I guess we can go ahead and cut to, well, no, I'm sorry. Before we do that, side note, you were mentioning the Stewie Nori love story. So this kind of comes to a head in episode 6, in that Nori earlier in the episodes told Stewie she was looking for the Jordan Zeros that her father initialed before he passed away. She had been looking for them for sentimental value reasons, couldn't find them.
First
Stewie,
shoes,
her first shoe that she flipped, and her father has since passed away. So Stewie somehow at the very end finds these shoes in a shop and gives them to Nori, and bam, there is the love connection. She kisses little nerdy Stewie and tells him he's a good man. So did you ship this little relationship, or did you see it as like, that's cute, but Nori ain't really gonna give him any play? Like,
I thought it was cute and she was gonna give him any play. I think she might give him a second of the day, but I don't know if he's getting a week. Like, I think she knows that he likes her and she doesn't mind him, you know?
She was charging him $50 an hour to be around. Yes. Which was hilarious.
I think it was cute just to get his reaction at the end, but I don't really foresee them having a relationship or anything like that.
We'll see if Netflix renews for a season 2, if they do anything. At the end, you kind of see Nori going on about her business because, again, she is a boss and a businesswoman out here and has things to do. So she like, Stewie, I'm going to catch you later. But moving on to when they kind of go to the collector's house to try to secure the money for these Zeros, the collector says,
the entire collection is on the line.
I already have 5 pair of Zeros. And me talking about I'll trade my whole collection, I say that all the time. My collection is worth millions. I'm not trading my collection for 1 pair of shoes. And the irony, Delora, the irony is that Little Rail, before they got there, had already called and gave that man $10K for that 5th pair of Jordan freaking Zeros. So yet again, Devin's best laid plans get foiled because he listened to Bobby. Because he listened to Bobby.
I felt good. I was like, the whole point was to recoup the first mistake. And you went around the entire world with your marriage on the line.
Yes, sir.
For nothing.
Yes,
I was gutted. I was pissed off. And again, a thought that crossed my mind: never trust Bobby.
Yeah, man. I mean, it was definitely, I guess I felt it was possibly inevitable, but I was still rooting for Devin. Like, even though Devin wasn't making great decisions, I was still rooting for it to kind of work out in the end somehow, some way.
We were rooting for you.
Yes.
We were all rooting for you.
What she said, it was sad. So at the end, you kind of see, the crew yet again disbanding. Devin catches the Uber. The driver, Delora, just so happens, girl, to stop at a sneaker shop.
Devin finds too.
Devin finds a random employee who has those white cement Jordans on his feet, those retro 4s, and says, "Listen, sir, can I cop them shoes off your feet?" And he said, "Nah, bruh, but guess what? I got you. I sell them in the back of my car." And happens to have a size 13. So Devin gets the shoes he's been wanting this whole 6 episodes, finally at the very end, because of this one employee.
Ashley, I have to tell you something. So I was not able to enjoy that scene because he didn't open up that freaking box. I was like, "Sir, can you at least check to make sure they're the right ones, that they're the right size?"
Absolutely.
He was just so happy because, again, we've been through this with him. We've been through the empty box, the one shoe in the box. You know what I mean? And
how did he pay? How did he pay this man? I ain't see no exchange of funds.
No, but I was like, open the box. Open the box. What's in the box? What's in the box? Okay. But my anxiety didn't last long because the next shot was him getting out of his car at home
with these shoes.
But
the irony, his white neighbor who thinks he's so down has the exact same pair on his freaking feet.
And he was like, I got them online. Can you imagine? I mean,
It cracked me up because even
what is the moral
guy
of that story? I wonder.
It's supposed to show the lengths and the ridiculousness that Devin is willing to go through that nobody else has had to go through for sneakers. Because even the guy who buys them from, remember, he was like, you have no idea what I've gone through to get these shoes. He's like, bruh, I feel you, because one time I had to drive 4 miles just to get some sneakers. And you see Devin's face
was
drop.
Too embarrassed to admit that he has done way more.
Girl. Has traveled the world for some damn shoes. So again, to your point, he's back home, and we find out when I was mentioning the thing about the nostalgia and what a shoe means to you. He's already mentioned that these Jordans that he really wanted, he made some shots for basketball in them. He wore them to prom. But you find out when he talks to his wife, which, by the way, I love that they had him ring the doorbell, because, yes, sir, you don't know where you stand with your wife right now. You better ring that doorbell. Ring that doorbell. So she answers the door in these sneakers, and you come to find out that they were the sneakers he was wearing when he first saw his wife. And he feels like it was love at first sight. He said, I didn't remember where I was. I didn't remember anything, because I knew that I was all in that moment. So it was a pretty beautiful, like, full circle moment to wonder why this man has gone through so much. And anybody who loves Jordans, you know that the releases are only so often. So it makes sense that this came at a time possibly where, you know, he hadn't gone down this rabbit hole in a long time, in 5 years, and these pair were coming up, and just the memories of it and the desire to really have it, because what it meant to him made him choose to go down this journey. So
it was beautiful.
Did you feel like, though, that we would be all good? Would you as his wife have been all good?
I don't think they were necessarily. I think the only reason why they were all good was for the best line of the entire show.
Hit me with it.
Devin's like, what's this? It's a purse. So I feel like she was
bought that purse, guys. She bought that $3,000 purse.
She bought that $3,000 purse. I feel like if she hadn't bought that purse, it would have been a different ending. Okay.
Yes.
I feel like by her purchasing that purse, it's a purse. I think it made it. I think it evened the playing field, and his story was helpful. You know, yes. I think it's interesting. Obviously, the show is about sneakerheads, lovers of shoes, but I think it's interesting that, you know, a shoe can represent so much for a person. I don't think I've ever tied shoes to a moment by any means. Maybe jewelry or even clothes, but never shoes. So that's interesting.
And the final shot of the whole show is Bobby customizing those Jordan Zeros. So hopefully he makes them look better. Because again, I was not excited. I was not impressed.
Get some money off of them.
Yes. And at the end of the day, you know, I do hope that, as irritating as Bobby was, I do hope for his success, right? Like, he never got to me so bad that I still was not rooting for him as a character and hoping that he succeeds in his endeavors. How did you feel kind of at the very end about the characters and the kind of final thoughts you had?
Well, I'm glad that Devin was able to find some peace in the fact that he was able to find those retro 4s. Mm-hmm. He still needs to figure out where that $5,000 is going to come from, which is something that stressed me out, because I'm just like, they didn't get what they needed. Hopefully Bobby can come through with that design and that sale so that it's even.
And he's also going back to work. He is also going back to work. Or
at least he could pay the half that he was supposed to be paying in the first place. I thought it was fine. You know, I was going through it because, again, the show took me on so many twists and turns that I just literally just went on the ride, because I'm like, I'm not even going to try to figure out what's going to happen next, because I can't. Yeah. I cannot. And I'm really good at it, you know, and I could not do it for this show. So I think it was good. The way Netflix has been canceling shows, I would not be surprised. I guess I'm not going to jinx the show, but what I'm trying to say is if they were to end it, I think they ended it on a good spot. Again, I have no idea where they would go from there, but you know, I'm sure the writers have some cool ideas. But what are your thoughts?
No, I agree. I think they resolved it. Again, to your point about the money, you're right. They didn't necessarily say where he's going to get that 5K, but they do allude to the fact that he's going to go back to work, which is great because they're going to need two incomes to be able to get back out of the $8,000 hole at this point that they put themselves potentially in.
Exactly.
So I do think they wrapped it up nicely. And again, I just think for anybody who's kind of a sneaker enthusiast, or even again, if you're just looking for like something fun and a little lighter to enjoy, I think this is one that you'll get into. I
have a great appreciation for comedies that are 25 to 30 minutes long because it's just, you don't want to sit through 45 minutes to an hour sometimes, you know, you just want to get through it. So, oh my goodness, we did it. Sneakerheads.
We did. That was our recap.
That was our recap.
And I was gonna say again, I give it a B+. Delora gave it a B-. You guys, let us know what you think.
Yes, you can reach us on social media at Recapping Podcast on Instagram and Twitter. So next up, we have Hidden Gems. So
go for it.
You want me to go first?
Yes, please.
Okay. So my first Hidden Gems this week would be the Lovecraft Country podcast, which is called Lovecraft Country Radio. Lovecraft as a series, it's pretty intense and it can be extremely confusing, but this podcast partners so well with the show. I am no longer lost like I was when I first started watching the show. It's hosted by two Black women who have a love for horror. One of them is an actual writer of the show, and just to hear their perspective, like one of the things that I love is, especially with it being two Black women, is when you hear horror genre, you really don't picture women, and you really don't picture Black women. And like for these two women to have a voice, to hear their perspective is very insightful because, again, Lovecraft Country is extremely thorough, intense. It has history and horror and all the things. And I highly, highly recommend it if you find it to be confusing. I will say Lovecraft Country is, each episode is essentially its own its own story.
Okay.
And then there's a through line, but sometimes that through line isn't as obvious in some episodes than others. But no, each episode is going to feature a new character and a new horror for that character.
And that's an HBO show, right?
HBO show, yes. Okay. And then their podcast is everywhere podcasts are found, like our podcast. And then my second and last one would be one of the shows that I loved during quarantine, and it's called The Magicians. It is originally a sci-fi show, but I found it on Netflix, and it's wonderful. I love a good sci-fi, you know, witches, spells, what have you, magical lands. It follows college students who are magicians, and they do these hand motions to cast spells, and there's love and lost and adventure, and it's a lot of fun. There's, I think, a grand total of 5 seasons. 4 of them are on Netflix. The 5th one and final season was on Sci-Fi earlier this year. So I'm patiently waiting for the final episode, the final season. I hope they end on a good foot, but those are my hidden gems for this week.
Awesome. Yeah, I was really into the Magicians for the first 2 seasons. I remember watching them as well, and I need to get back into it and probably rewatch it to catch back up. It also gets pretty intense, like in terms of some of those storylines and some
it's very adult. It's not.
Yes.
It's not for. It's like an adult Harry Potter. Like
exactly.
There's, a lot of violence, a lot of
sexuality is definitely in there.
Sexuality, yes, but just even dealing with different types of trauma that they explore, it goes deep.
Yeah, but it is a really great, I agree with you. I've enjoyed it, and I think, if you want to recap it at some point, we can consider it once we get all 5 seasons rather under our belt. But thank you so much for those hidden gems. Mine, I have 3 for this week. My first one is going to be Savage by Fenty Volume 2, which is currently available on Amazon Prime. So both Volume 1 and Volume 2 are on Amazon. I remember watching the first one, and it was more like a traditional fashion show where, there was an audience and all of those things. But I think for season 2, and I don't know when they shot it in terms of COVID, but you could tell it was much more contained. Mm-hmm. And, visually stunning, a lot of great dance numbers, a lot of great pop-up appearances by different celebrities and performances. You had appearances from everybody from Normani to Big Sean, which shout out, he was looking scrum-diddly umptious in that Savage by Fenty Volume 2, honey. Willow Smith popped up in there, Lizzo, even Demi Moore popped up in there.
My faves were definitely Demi and Erica Jane.
Wow. Oh yeah, Erica Jane with the pasties. I was like, girl, live your best life, honey. Yes, you were not shy. You were not shy. Performances by people like Travis Scott, Ella Mai, Miguel, and I really love Rosalia. I've seen her perform, I think, one other time, but she's fire every time I see her.
She's fire, and if it wasn't for COVID, she would be a bigger star over here. I'm convinced. I mean,
yeah, she's amazing.
My baby girl and I, we listen to her music, and I have no idea what she's saying, but
exactly.
Fire.
Sounds good, looks great performing it. So I definitely enjoyed it. Again, the dance, I didn't even necessarily really pay attention to the lingerie. Like, I would have to go out to her website to see the lingerie because I was just so much more into, the dancing and the performances than anything.
Show.
It was a full show, guys, full show. And it was, there's eye candy for both men and women. So don't think that it's just, women in lingerie. You got the guys out there looking good. As I said, Big Sean, shout out, Janae, I see you, girl.
And I'd like to add to your Jim. Can we just take a moment on and give Rihanna her props? She put Victoria's Secret out of business. Victoria's Secret, who?
I mean,
she came with the inclusion.
I was going to say
skin color, but body types.
Absolutely. So that's something I was going to lead into. Actually, I think I sent you this article, but to your point, she's won so much praise for kind of the inclusivity and diversity of her models, in body size and type. And as you mentioned, in diversity, racial diversity, but she did have a little bit of a scandal in that the Muslim community was not happy about a particular song that got included in this show, which used an Islamic scripture. So, again, I recommend it. I think it's a great hidden gem, but just know that, she did apologize though. And she was very, resolute in the fact that this wouldn't happen again. It was an unfortunate oversight, but, she did have to overcome a little bit of controversy, but again, the show was phenomenal. So that was, hidden gem number 1. Hidden gem number 2, Humans on Amazon. There are currently 3 seasons available. Gemma Chan, aka Astrid from Crazy Rich Asians, really leads this cast. It is essentially another one that's gorgeous. I love her so much. It's another one that is really focused on robots and them kind of gaining consciousness and the dynamic between that and humanity. And I just watched season 3. I had watched the first 2 seasons. And I think season 3 for me was so much more palpable, probably just because of this moment that we're in. And as Black people, us trying to reckon with, trying to continually fight for our humanity. And that was such a big theme in season 3 that it got me a little emotional. And again, I know this is fantasy. I know this is robots, but just that correlation right now and how vivid some of the moments were in terms of the violent interaction between the robots and the humans got to me a little bit, but I still think the series is fantastic. I think if you get into, you know, the Westworlds and Ex Machina and some of those, I think you'll really enjoy this. Yes. So it's definitely a hidden gem for me because I haven't really heard too many people talk about this series, and I think it's worth a look. The last hidden gem that I have, I told you I was going to have one particular singer, but literally last night I changed it because I have a true hidden gem in this little 11-year-old girl named Liamani Segura, who has the voice of a freaking angel. I was on TMZ and Deborah Cox, there's a Deborah Cox challenge going on right now for Nobody's Supposed to Be Here. And Deborah shouted out this little girl as being somebody who just blew her away with her performance. So I found this little girl on Instagram at Liamani Sings, and she's just vocally on a whole nother level. And again, she's 11. And so I think the future is just so bright for her. I love a vocalist. I know you love a vocalist.
Absolutely. So, a singer. Okay.
Girl, I just encourage everybody to go check her out. You know, she covers everything from, you know, the Deborah Cox to, you know, all the great singers, in my opinion, Kelly Clarkson, like a bunch of great vocalists who you wouldn't think an 11-year-old could hit some of these notes.
Sullivan.
I have not looked through all of them, but if she covers a Jasmine Sullivan song, girl, she has the voice for those runs. Let me just say,
the range.
She has the range. So go check her out. I think she's gonna be doing her thing in the years to come. And those are my hidden gems for this week.
Thank you so much, Ashley. We did it.
We did it. Man, I hope you guys, again, are really enjoying this. We know that there's so much content out there for you to consume. We so appreciate you taking the time to listen to this and get into it with us. As Laura mentioned, you can now reach us via social media at Recapping Podcast on IG and Twitter. We also have a Gmail if you want to reach out to us there. Yes. What is our Gmail, Delora? Is it Recapping Podcast?
Yes. It's recappingpodcast@gmail.com.
So please, guys, shoot us. Let us know how you're feeling, what you're watching, just any thoughts that you have. And we hope to continue to bring you Recapping with Delora and Ashley every week.
Yes. Hopefully in the next couple of weeks, we'll get something spooky on the books here.
She's trying to push me towards the spooky, guys. We've had a discussion. I am not a horror enthusiast, but for the culture, I will do this for you. For the culture only. But again, thank you guys so much. We'll see you next week. Delora, as always, it's been a pleasure, my friend.
Always. Bye.